The Chicago Bears are taking on the Minnesota Vikings this Sunday at Soldier Field at 12 p.m. Central. Can the Bears finally win a game? Watch this video to hear my thoughts. What's going on, guys? I'm back with another Chicago Bears pregame prediction video, which I'll be doing before every single Bears game this year. And just like the last video, this pregame video is going to be a little bit on the shorter side, only for the sake of interest, because obviously a lot of Bears fans are not as interested in these pregame videos as they were a month ago when the Bears were 4-2. So I'll keep them a little bit more brief and talk about more like news updates during them too, not only just the game itself, because at this point in the season, guys, the Bears season is on life support. Like, there's a very little chance the Bears can make the playoffs at this point. Like, we have less than a 1% chance to make the playoffs, obviously, because we have the toughest schedule in the NFL by far remaining. It's playoff teams every single week down the stretch, and at this point I'm not even mad about the losses because they get us closer to Matt Eberflus being fired. Okay, this guy should have been fired a couple weeks ago. He should have been fired before the season even started, but he's still here for the time being. So even though I want the Bears to win games, okay, I'm still going to be rooting for wins for Caleb's sake and just for being a Bears fan. Obviously, I like to see the team to win games. You know, I'm not going to be explicitly rooting for them to lose, but if they do lose, I'm not going to be too mad either, because again, it gets us closer to Matt Eberflus being fired. And if we lose the next two games, maybe there's a tiny chance he could be fired on Black Friday. Okay, that's probably wishful thinking as a Bears fan, because the Bears never fire coaches in season, but part of me thinks there might be a tiny chance he could be gone just for Ryan Poles to save his own ass. I'm not sure why he's not done that as of now, because Ryan Poles has really attached himself to Eberflus. So even though, you know, I like some of the things that Ryan Poles has done as GM of the Bears, his refusal to fix the offensive line and his refusal to fire Eberflus might be his downfall as well. So I think to save face, if the Bears do lose the next two games, maybe there's a chance, you know, Flus could be fired, and maybe they could see what they have in Thomas Brown, because it seems like all the players and, you know, a lot of the fan base is really fallen in love with Thomas Brown, with his coaching style, with his energy, with his, you know, charisma and what he says at the press conferences. And obviously we have to see a lot more out of Thomas Brown to even think about him being a potential head coaching candidate after Eberflus is gone. But we'll see what happens with Flus if he gets fired in season. But at this point, guys, the only thing I really care about is the growth and development of Caleb Williams. It sucks we have to say that every time we draft a rookie quarterback. You know, by week 7, week 8, or week 10, we're already like tuned out on the season because our record is so poor, and we're only hoping for growth and flashes out of a rookie quarterback. It's the same old story every single time. But you know, Caleb truly has shown a lot of flashes and a lot of potential, and working with Thomas Brown especially, I think he could show more of those flashes. So I'm still going to be very excited to watch the rest of the season, purely to see how Caleb Williams can grow and get better as a quarterback. But talking about our opponent, the Minnesota Vikings, it's going to be a very tough matchup for the Bears. The Vikings are 8-2, playing phenomenal football, very well coached. Okay, on both sides of the football, they have a very strong coach, Kevin O'Connell on offense and Brian Flores on defense. So I'm very jealous of their coaching staff, because clearly they're showing what phenomenal coaching can do to a roster. The Vikings roster is pretty good, but they're playing even better than their talent level suggests, in my opinion, because of how strong the coaching is. Okay, Sam Darnold is doing things he's never really done in his NFL career because of Kevin O'Connell. So yeah, the Bears usually play the Vikings pretty close at home, though, so I think it is still going to be a fairly close game, even though the Vikings are a better football team and a better coach football team. It just seems like every time we play the Vikings at Soldier Field, these games end up being very, very close. So it should come down to the wire, hopefully, but we will see. Talking briefly about the Vikings offense, they rank number 10 in points scored per game, number 15 in yards game per game, number 13 passing attack, and number 19 run game. So a little bit surprised to see the run game not as big of a factor on this offense. Aaron Jones is their running back, so us Bears fans know, man, Aaron Jones has destroyed us during his NFL career. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, he can get in space and get a lot of yards after the catch. He can run pretty well too. He has 692 rushing yards in the season so far, so even if he's not been the most productive back so far this season, he's still having a pretty solid season, and he's a threat to destroy the Bears anytime he touches Soldier Field. So still pretty worried about Aaron Jones and his impact on the Vikings offense. But if you look at their receiving core, obviously they got Justin Jefferson, the best receiver in the NFL. He almost has 1,000 yards already on the season. He has 912 yards on the season. So this guy, man, just produces every single week. Like, he has 100+ yard outings basically every single week. So Jalen Johnson is going to be tasked with a very, very hard challenge of trying to stop Justin Jefferson as best as he can. And they got Jordan Addison behind him. They got TJ Hawkinson too behind him. And like I mentioned, Aaron Jones can catch the ball out of the backfield too. So this Vikings passing attack is pretty deadly. Now, Sam Darnold is the main X factor here because Sam Darnold has been turning the ball over a good amount as of late. He has 10 interceptions on the season. A lot of them came in the last, month or so. And he does have 19 touchdowns that he passed for. He has 2,387 passing yards. So in terms of overall numbers, he's still doing pretty solid, but the interceptions are kind of high, okay? So for a Bears defense that has turned the ball over a good amount this season, that could be a good matchup for the Bears, to try to force Sam Darnold into making those turnovers, okay? When the protection has been bad, then Sam Darnold has not been as good of a quarterback. When the protection has been solid, when everything around him is pretty good, Sam Darnold can execute this offense pretty well. So we'll see if the Bears defense can do a good job against them. But talking about the Vikings defense then, they rank number 4 in points allowed per game, number 10 in yards allowed per game, number 28 pass defense, and number 1 run defense. So you guys can see they are really good at stopping the run and making teams one-dimensional. So even though it's showing, 28th, ranked secondary, basically 28th most passing yards allowed, that's mostly because teams just cannot run the football whatsoever against this team. Okay, they're very stout up front on the defensive line. So, for a Bears offense that has struggled sometimes to get the run game going, this is a matchup I'm pretty worried about, because if we can't get the run game going, if Caleb is going to drop back and pass the ball, 40, 50 times like he has done a couple times this season, that's not a good recipe for success. You guys probably already know this by now. Everybody talks about it, but Brian Flores has a very aggressive, very blitz-happy defense. They have one of the highest blitz percentages in the entire NFL, so you can expect a lot of blitzes thrown Caleb Williams' way in this game, and their blitzes have been getting home pretty frequently, okay? Andrew Van Ginkel has 8 sacks, Jonathan Greenard has 7 sacks, Patrick Jones II has 7 sacks, so a lot of big-time sack production out of this Vikings defense, even though they don't have Danielle Hunter anymore, okay? They don't even have a true superstar, I would say, but they have a bunch of good players that are getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback, a lot of sacks, because their DC, Brian Flores, is just so damn good. He's one of the best defensive minds in all of football. So even though this Vikings defense, on paper, does not have a crazy amount of talent, they're performing a lot better than their talent level suggests, and the secondary is being put in a good position to succeed with how quickly the front seven gets pressure on the quarterback. But talking about the Chicago Bears now, talking about their offense first of all, they rank number 22 in points scored per game, number 29 in yards gained per game, number 30 passing attack, number 22 run game, and Thomas Brown taking over is the big story here, because last game, the Bears offense looked so much better under Thomas Brown than it ever did really under Shane Waldron, besides for 2 games, obviously, against the Jaguars and Panthers. But the Packers had a pretty solid defense. Okay, if you look at the Packers stats defensively, they were pretty good the entire season. So the Bears performing that well against the Packers, although they only scored 19 points, they moved the ball down the field pretty well. They only punted 2 times. I thought was a very good step in the right direction. Thomas Brown's energy, his play calling was just so much better than what we have seen out of the Bears OC for the vast majority of the season. He simplified things for Caleb. He took advantage of what he does the best as a quarterback. He had Caleb run with the football too to make things a little bit easier on him, which are things that Shane Waldron should have been doing the entire season. But I'm happy that Thomas Brown finally is bringing that to the Chicago Bears offense. But I do want to see, is it sustainable? Okay, what is his plan going to be against a fantastic DC like Brian Flores? He already knows they're going to blitz the shit out of Caleb in this game. He's going to see, 15, 20 plus blitzes. So what is his plan to counteract those blitzes? How are you going to get the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands quickly? That's going to be the big storyline of this game. And if he can come up with a good plan to actually counteract these blitzes, we would have to have a conversation about Thomas Brown potentially taking over as head coach of this team. Now, obviously, it's way too early to even be thinking about that, but if he has a good game plan in this one, if Caleb and the offense somehow do well against a pretty good defense, then Thomas Brown would get a lot more praise even than he's getting at this current point in time. And Talking about Caleb a little bit, guys. Caleb had a pretty good game in the last game against the Packers. He had 300 all-purpose yards, no interceptions. He also had no touchdowns, so I do want to see the touchdowns start to come, the passing touchdowns, although it doesn't matter who gets a touchdown, okay? I don't care if a running back gets it or Caleb gets it, okay? The touchdowns all count the same, but I want to see Caleb get a couple of touchdowns through the air because it's been over a month now since he threw his last passing touchdown. So, stats wise, it could look better, but Caleb is doing things a lot better, at least under Thomas Brown. So definitely encouraged by that. And, hopefully the Bears offensive line also gets a boost in this one. Tevin Jenkins is returning back to the lineup. So Tevin's return hopefully should help. Our offensive line is going to have a big challenge in this game against a defense that is going to blitz a lot, throw a lot of stunts at you. So the communication has to be on point for this game. Otherwise, we're going to see a repeat of what we saw against the Patriots or against the Houston Texans. But talking about the Bears defense then, they rank number 7 in points allowed per game, number 14 in yards allowed per game, number 9 pass defense, number 23 run defense. And in the last game, guys, the Bears defense did allow a lot of big chunk plays down the field. Some of them were a little bit lucky. Jordan Love threw one in double coverage, which Elijah Hicks got injured on that play. So Elijah Hicks is not playing in this game. Jonathan Owens is going to be starting, and we also signed Adrian Colbert, the Hard Knocks star. He's back on the team as well, so that's going to be a fun story if he gets to play at all. But yeah, our secondary last game, did allow a couple big chunk plays, but for the most part, they have been pretty solid this season. I want to see Terrell Smith get some time in at CB2 on the outside because so far this season, he has been better than Tyreek Stevenson, without a doubt. Now, the sample size is not as big. Tyreek has played a lot more than Terrell has, but I wouldn't be surprised if both of them, again, get significant playing time, maybe split playing time. Not the most ideal thing in the world. You want one player to play there, but they kind of have a competition going on right now at CB2, and, may the best man win. Okay, I'm a big Tyreek Stevenson fan for all the big playmaking he's done in the past, but so far it's been a pretty rough year out of Tyreek Stevenson. So, hopefully if Terrell is in there, he can, make some more big-time plays like he's been making this entire season. Now, our pass rush was a problem in the last game. Montez Sweat is not having the best season, at least compared to last season when he had 10 plus sacks. This season, he only has 3 sacks, I believe. So it's been a pretty quiet season out of Montez Sweat. And even Javon Dexter has been a little bit quiet since the bye week. So I want to see these big time names really step up and make big plays in this game. Okay, it's time to get some disruption, some sacks on the quarterback. I want to see Sam Darnold brought down to the dirt multiple times and to make life difficult on him because we know he's going to throw picks if there's any pressure on him. So, hopefully the Bears defense can get back to forcing turnovers and getting pressure on the quarterback. With all that being said, it's time for my score prediction. Who do I have winning this matchup? And guys, I have the Chicago Bears going into Soldier Field, losing to the Vikings by a score of 24-20, even though I very badly want to pick a Bears win. And I do think it's possible, okay? At some point, I hope the Bears would get at least one win. Hopefully, we don't lose out the rest of the season because that would be pretty embarrassing. But at this point, guys, Eberflus has shown he is going to find every single way to lose a close game. So my prediction for this one is that we're going to be stopped at the 1 yard line on the game-winning drive, okay? Rome Odunze is going to be 1 yard short of the game-winning touchdown. I hate to predict, disappointing things like this, but I'm sorry, guys. Like, this season, we have found every single way to lose at the last second. So why is that not going to continue? I hope it doesn't. I hope Caleb Odunze, the Bears team, can find a way to beat this very good Vikings team. And I do think it's going to be pretty close because we are at home. This may be a little bit of a trap game for the Vikings against a Bears team that is going to be hungry for a win at this point, not having won for over a month. But this is the Matt Eberflus Chicago Bears, and until they prove differently, I'm going to be picking losses for this team. As for my offense MVP, I'm going to be going with Cole Kmet. I think Cole Kmet should be a big security blanket for Caleb in this game on third downs, especially when being blitzed. Okay, he's a big body, big target, big catch radius guy that should be able to catch the ball even if it is a little bit off. So, Cole Kmet, offense MVP, defense MVP, I'm going to be going with Kyler Gordon. I think that we do blitz Sam Darnold a good amount in this game. We send pressure his way, and then Kyler Gordon gets home for a sack and also gets an interception on Sam Darnold as well. But leave a comment down below, guys. What do you guys think is going to happen in this game? Again, I hate to be so negative, but until the Bears prove me wrong, I'm sorry, I have to be negative, okay? I can't pick any more Bears wins for the rest of the season unless our offense turns it around, unless, we miraculously start fighting and finishing these close games. Why should I pick a Bears win? I hope it happens. I want to see Caleb celebrate with his teammates and, remember what a win feels like, right? Because it's been over a month since the last Bears win, but against a very good Vikings team. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen. Leave your comments down below. As always, bear down.